So, hey, we're back and it's Thriving Thursday. So, we're super excited that you're here. Look, I want to say thank you for all of the people that follow us, all of the people that watch. You guys have been so faithful and we're so excited about it. But I wanted to take this time to say, hey, leave us a comment in the comments section and let us know what you like, what you don't like. Let us know which interview you thought was the best and which interview you'd like to see in the future, which topic you'd like to see discussed. Let us know. Okay, so it's Thriving Thursday, and you know I like to give you just a little bit of a snippet. So today I put something out there, knowing that I was enough, knowing that I was loved, helped me to continue, helped me to thrive. So knowing who you are is important to your success in life, because if you're not confident in anything that you do, if you're not confident in your purpose, if you're not confident in your destiny, you have no way of thriving. The least you can do is survive and hold on for dear life until you get your confidence boosted. So I want to encourage you today to be confident and continue to thrive. All right. So today, as you can see, I have with me Marcus. Hi, Marcus.
Hello.
He's back on here. A couple of weeks ago, we did a segment on brotherhood. Now, I've done at least 6 sessions about brotherhood. And on our last session with all the guys that I interviewed, Marcus had to leave for a few minutes. So we wanted to pick up on that part of the conversation. We wanted Marcus's input. So today, we're here talking about brotherhood, guy friendships, and building relationships. So, hey, Marcus, before we get started, can you tell us what you think about brotherhood and how important it is today in this hour?
Well, I think brotherhood is extremely important. When you look at what's going on in the world, even on the television shows, it show men as weak, as lost, as not knowing where they're going, as out of control, getting run over. But brotherhood is extremely important because you know, as men, we need support. We hurt too. If you cut us, we do bleed. We do get sick. We do hurt. Things that people say to us does hurt us. It hurts. Unkind things, that is. But also when people speak kindness, it encourages, it blesses, it really, really helps us. Sometimes we do go through depression, we do have anxiety, we go through these emotional things. And somehow we've been raised in a society that to show this side of us is weak, but it's not. It's not weak. It's actually being strong. It's actually being honest. It's actually being transparent. But also, most importantly, it's also showing the generation, our sons and the guys in the neighborhood, the people that the young boys and young men that we come in contact with. We're showing them how to be healthy. We're showing them how to process and deal with challenges of life and to be human and to be able to navigate through various things in life. So it's important, very important.
That's good. Last time we had Jamie Adams with us, and we had Ramal Brown. Jamie talked about an insider's look of brotherhood, beyond superficiality. And Ramal Brown, he talked about his experience in the military and how that affected his life. Now, Jamie was also a veteran, and he talked about how that affected his life. So 2 different guys, 2 different generations going into the military, 2 very different experiences. One came out a little bit more reserved, knowing how to kind of compress and disassociate himself from trauma. And then the other one came out knowing that he had to support other people and going out and doing that in his community. We see him very active. So you saw, or if you haven't seen, you can go back and look at Brotherhood parts 1 and 2, Guy Friendship, and you'll hear Ramal Brown and Jamie Adams talk about their experience with Brotherhood, along with Marcus. Marcus is in the first session. he's all throughout the first session, but that second session he had to step away. So we're going to pick up on this conversation, ask the same questions. We can't necessarily provide the same scenery because it's a little bit of a difference when you're in a conversation with multiple people. You kind of feed off of each other, but I think the questions are relevant, and we would like to hear from you, Marcus, on what you think about the guys and how they shared themselves. So my first question to them was, when you get a text from someone, one of your guy friends, and it says, "Hey man, I'm thinking about you," what's your first reaction?
Well, my first reaction is I'm honored. I know people time are valuable. I've experienced that. I know a friend of mine would text me, and I know his job is pretty busy, and he would text me in the middle of the day, and he would say, "Man, I'm just thinking about you." And the amazing thing about it is, when his text came through, it's always at a trying time. Uh, I was going through a trying time, and it brought a relief, like a sigh, like, you know what? Somebody do care, somebody is thinking about me. Maybe the fact that I'm under pressure, it is encouraging. It is refreshing. It's like, whew, somebody is thinking about me. So this, what I'm going through is just temporary. This is not who I am. This circle or this situation here, this is just temporary, but this is the real deal. So it is refreshing. It is encouraging. It is edifying, and it builds me up. And, it's kind of like, you get that second wind just to keep on keeping on. Like, you know what? I'm going to keep my heart right. I'm going to keep my head right. I'm not going to say what was on my mind. I'm not going to say what I was tempted to say. I'm going to just hold that. And you know what? I'm going to just keep my head down and do what I got to do and be kind.
That's good.
It's
Really
strengthening.
Good. That's good. So you say it's strengthening, gives you a second win. That's super, super cool. Yeah. I said this the last time, like you said, people are super busy all the time. What about those people that have poured into you, those mentors that have given themselves and shared really their hearts, their lives, their experiences, their journey, and just kind of help lead you along the way? When you hear from those people, like, how does that affect you?
That's a big deal. For me, when I hear from those people, and it may be, "Hey brother, I'm thinking about you. You can do it. God has great plans for you." Those mentors, it means so much. I don't want to say it's like mining for gold, but it's like those words are they're treasure to me, because those mentors, they know me. They know where I came from. They know me today. They know my past. They know my dirt. Uh, praise the Lord. They know things about me. And the fact that they would take time out, knowing, my mentors, they're pretty busy people, and they live busy lives. And to take that time out, it's valuable. I deem it as precious. It means a lot to me. It carries weight, for lack of a better word. I got a text from one of my mentors on Labor Day, to say, "Hey, I just hope you and your family are enjoying a great day." That meant so much to me, that in the middle of his day with his family, he took time out and just to say, "Hey, I'm thinking about you." Man, I tell you what, it was like almost the highlight of my day. Of course, Andrea and the kids are the highlight, and the Lord, you know what I'm saying? But it meant a lot to me. So when my mentors do reach out to me, send me a text message or a message on Messenger or Facebook or a phone call, it means a lot. It goes a long way.
Yeah.
Actually, I had one of my mentors from back in the Bahamas. I mean, we're talking about 21 years ago. Messaged me on Facebook, and we'd lose touch for so long, but it meant so much to me. I mean, it was a huge deal, because when I was going through it, when I was going through my past and dealing with it, he was there. He was a shoulder I could lean on, and he would say, "You know what?" He was a teacher, but he was also a barber. He would be like, "You know what? Don't even worry about the haircut. This is on me." And, he would say, you know what, here, buy yourself a cold drink or buy yourself a meal. Or, he was there and he would just encourage me. I remember going in his barber shop with tears in my eyes because I felt like, I come out of this lifestyle and then I'm supposed to be living for the Lord. And it's like, man, nothing seems to be going right, and he was that guy that was there for me, that, listen, man, you're going through some things, but it ain't always going to be this way. You know what I mean? You got to walk right now in order for God to trust you later. Things like that he would say, but he was there. He was a rock for me. So to hear from him, yeah. And all of my mentors, it means a lot.
That's wonderful. One of the comments that Ramal and Jamie, some of the comments that they had mentioned, Ramal had said like he had lived for his dad, like he lived to make his dad happy, and he didn't want his dad's investment to be wasted.
Yeah.
And then Jamie mentioned being at a point in his life where he was being handed off. So his mentor had brought, one of his mentors had brought him to the point to where it was time to transition him into another phase.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like that's what's happened with your mentorship? That people have seen you, they've celebrated the time that they've had with you, and then they've kind of passed you off and let you go into that next phase in life while holding on to you?
Yes, they have done that, but at the same time, there's an open door that anytime I need to come in and talk, anytime I need someone to listen, I have access. Text me, you can call me. There's that open door.
Yeah.
And yes, I've used that. Yes, I've taken those liberties because it's been offered. Because there were times that I was overwhelmed. I was struggling. I know just recently I was in the hospital and just talking to one of my mentors, just let him know what was going on with some things. And he was like, maybe it's just the Lord delivering you from that situation, it looked like a bad situation,
Yeah.
but then when he, because he knew the detail of it, I opened up about that. And he's like, man, I see this as you being delivered from that situation to where, I don't have to be tempted or pushed to speak what was on my mind, because what was on my mind in certain situation, it wasn't the best. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like, when I'm cornered, like anybody else, when you're cornered and people are putting pressure, sometimes to get out of a corner, a dog gonna fight his way out. Now, I'm not a dog by no means, but, sometimes when I'm cornered, I tend to fight my way out. And I'm not gonna say it's easy. Sometimes, depending on the pressure, I could go back to a certain way of fighting that I really don't want to go to. So whenever the situation happened, my mentor was like, man, perhaps God is delivering you from this situation. I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I didn't see it like that. So, but even in that regard, I still have that open door to where I can go and communicate and talk. So yes.
There's two things that I want to address here that we didn't really get to in the other session. One thing that I'm seeing, just even as you're talking about this and communicating about what your mentor was able to pinpoint, they have foresight on things that they've already walked through. Now, we did touch briefly on this in the last session with the guys, but they have foresight and foreknowledge on battles that you're already facing or challenges that you face.
Absolutely.
And they have insight and they say, hey, look, maybe if you see this from this perspective, maybe if you see it from this vantage point, then you don't necessarily have to fight useless battles. Right? You can just move on. But keep your peace and move on. But I wanted to address this, and this just came up to me when we talk about brotherhood. We're not necessarily talking. A lot of times people think about a fraternity, a sorority. I'm not sorority, sorry, fraternity, and not a sorority. Sorry, just kind of get on that. Think about the military. They think about clubs, gangs. Like bike, motorcycle clubs, things of that nature, secret societies,
sports teams,
Masons,
football,
things of that nature. Kind of more on that line, not necessarily the sports team, but more along that line. People think of that brotherhood because people kind of get initiated into those to be a part of it. for that networking, for that
Got you.
society, that type of thing.
I
Now
got you.
with that, teams is kind of like you got to have ability, you know what I mean? But in those groups, you just have to be able to kind of go through whatever their initiation process is, right? To get in.
Yeah.
And then Ramal talked about some knowing the codes and understanding like there's a bro code. You can't just be going around acting crazy.
No.
But when I talk about a brotherhood in this regard, I'm talking about the guys that are in your life, building those relationships. I'm not necessarily saying that you need to go and collect all of the guys in your life and say, hey, we got to be a brotherhood and we got to build that up. And that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying be there for your brother. If you got a friend that's there and they're having struggles, they're having problems, that they're not opening up, that they're isolated, be there for your brother.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by brotherhood. And then talking about guy friendships, we did address superficiality, as I mentioned before in Jamie's segment with going beyond superficiality. So one of the things we also kind of hit on was with what you're saying with your mentors and things of that nature, what they've invested in you. There's a lot of people that have holes in their hearts because there haven't been men in their lives that have filled kind of that vacancy or been there to validate, to put their seal of approval on, or to help, to guide, to train. Do you believe that that's what people are experiencing? Is that what that hole in their vacancy is, because they don't have people in their lives to do that?
Well, let me say this. Yes and no. What I mean by that is, yeah, it may be that they don't have people to do that, but at the same time, it may be that they have people there, but those people are misusing their position, because I've experienced that, where people everything they said to me, the way they helped me, was in light of me not necessarily finding what God has for me, or not necessarily to develop me, you know what I'm saying, to be all that I can. But it was the development was a part of their plan, their big plan, because they wanted to help me and develop me, because they had a plan for my life. And that's something that myself and you and I, that we had to deal with. At one point in time, the people that did pour into us, they had an agenda for our life, and it was a lot of pressure. So yes, to some degree, because they don't have that. But I think on the other side of that is because there are people who are there and who have misused that position, that place, if that makes sense, because I've experienced it.
Wow. So how did you overcome, Did it take you a while? Did it make you resent the people that were there?
I had to forgive. I mean, today, I'm just one class away from my bachelor's in business administration, and this was something I wanted to do some years ago, but somebody in my life was like, that's not it, and I trusted that person. Well, years later, here's the Lord like, hey, you need to go back and finish that, like, man, you know what I'm saying? And I can't blame them, you know what I'm saying? I blame myself, because I should have went after it. I should have never given somebody that much. There's a difference between somebody mentoring you and somebody controlling you. And at that point, I was controlling, didn't know it, or didn't see it, or didn't want to see it. But of course, it took going to mentors who had my best interests at heart. Mm-hmm. It took going there and dealing with those issues, and dealing with those emotions, and dealing with those angers, and dealing with those unforgiveness. And for me, first and foremost, coming to the realization that I was damaged. I'm coming to the realization that those things did happen. And then there was a place where I dealt with some things, but there's some things I needed help on, because especially when it comes to forgiveness, I would forgive and then I would pick it back up. Something would happen, I would pick it back up. So exposing that to somebody else, exposing that to somebody, to my elders, to my mentors, and, telling them how I felt about it, and them helping me through that. First and foremost, like I said, acknowledging that it happened, acknowledging that those feelings were there, and then exposing them. to somebody healthy, to somebody who had my best interest at heart, to say, listen, I know it hurts, but you you know, you got to forgive. You know, I know it's horrible and it shouldn't have happened, but you know what? It ain't too late.
Yeah.
You know, I know it hurts, but there's healing available. I know you look back at it and you feel like and you have wasted a lot of time, but you know what? You can do it.
Yeah.
And I have.
Yeah.
You know, I've done it.
Yeah. I think that's kind of I think it's awful, but kind of cool at the same time, because you had people that were in your life that tried to control you, but then you had someone in your life that wasn't controlling, that had no intentions of controlling, to help pull you out of that mentality, to pull you out of the unforgiveness, which kind of leaves you to, there is hope. So if you're in a situation, this is a little different than before, because the conversation flows a little differently. If you're in a situation when you're dealing with somebody that has controlled you and you've been hurt, and you feel like someone has taken your life and misused you, number one, if you're still in the situation, I would advise you to really ask yourself some hard questions to see if you need to be there, if you really need to be there, or is there something that's there that's keeping you there, manipulation, some form of feeling some sort of an obligation to that person. If that's keeping you there, then you need to consider getting out of that situation. If you are out of that situation, you just had a bitter taste in your mouth, we don't go any further than, what's kind of in our hearts. So I would say face that situation head on. Like Marcus said, acknowledge it. And if you need help, get help. And I'll have a number on the bottom of the screen, and I'll have Marcus's email address, and I'll put Jamie and Ramal's email address on there. If you need some help, we've got some guys here that are willing to be a brother to you.
Let me say something on that, if you don't mind. What I'd like to say on that too is, if you're in that position, the thing that's keeping you there is really fear. And perfect love casts out fear. Fear in any form, any capacity is unhealthy. So if it's fear that's keeping you there, it's already the wrong spirit. It's already the wrong spirit. Reach out to somebody and get some help.
Yeah. And like I said, they're here to support you. So if you need to reach out to these guys, the email address will be at the bottom of the screen. So I had talked about, some people getting stuck in certain transitions in life. It's kind of funny, you have a 60-year-old man, 70-year-old man kind of stuck at 30. So I wanted to know, how does a person get stuck at that certain place in life?
Somewhere down the line, he loses himself.
Yeah.
He loses himself. He loses identity, and he's trying to match up or live up to a version of him that I can't do what what I used to do when I was 20. Some months ago, me and my eldest son, we went running to the park, practicing football. So we were running in between the light posts they have out there. And I'm like, all right, come on, let's go, man. And so we took off, and he made 4 laps before I made one. He's like, hey, come on, old man, what's happening? So I realized that, what? I can't keep up with him. I can't do what he can do. I'm not what I used to be no more. Now, probably 18, I would have smoked him. I probably could smoke him in a 2 feet run or so. But beyond that, but I'm cool with that. I'm good with who I am. When I look at where I've came from, I'm glad to be alive today. So yeah, I'm glad to be 41. I'm glad to be at the age I am. There are a lot of people that I know didn't make it. So trying to live up to something, being stuck in the past, and being stuck in what I call those glory days. Come on, man. Those glory days, they're gone. And just be realistic about who you are, where you are. Accept that.
Yeah.
Accept that.
Yeah. So, what are you doing to pour into the younger generations? Because a lot of times there's people are dismissive of the younger generation. They have a tendency to say, well, they're not worth anything, or this is all that they do. They want to be on is computers, and all they want to look at is technology, and they're always on social media, and this is a bad thing, and this is horrible. Now there are some statistics to being on social media for or extended amount of time that messes with your attention span, and
Yeah.
like not going against that, but that's their form of technology. What are you doing not to necessarily dismiss the next generation, but to pour in this upcoming generation?
Well, for me, there's two things. There's two positions I assume. The first position is it depends on which age group we're talking about, because 16, 17 and younger, 18, 19, 20. I mean, of course, I'm 41. So one position is to be a soft place to land. I know when I was 18, 19, 16, 15, nobody could tell me nothing. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. And I mean, today I look back at the people that were in my life that were leading and guiding me, and mentoring me and telling me things. They were right. There are a lot of things that I got into that I wouldn't have got into. There are a lot of trouble that I got into that I would not have got into if I listened. And I do run up on the young version of me. So my position is to be a soft place to land, to be a place that they can come back to and say, man, hey, I'm in this position. I need help. Can I talk to you? And I've experienced that, where people come and say, hey, man, I need to talk to you. I got this going on. I got that going on. I was in the hospital, just recently with COVID, and I got a phone call from a friend, like, man, blah, blah, blah. This is what's going on. I'm like, hey, I'm here. And then the second thing is to be a bridge. There may be things about the generation behind me that they don't understand about the generation before me. And there are things that the generation before me may not understand about the generation behind me. So to serve as a bridge. And I think it's very important that we don't burn those bridges. Now, I've burned bridges, and I've learned the hard way. And the thing about those bridges is when you burn them, you never know when you got to cross back over. So I try to be a bridge. I may not know it. I may not understand it, but I try to listen. I try to understand. I try to, just to be there as a compassionate, and just serve as a bridge to connect the generations.
That's good. And our last question: what do you do, not just being a bridge, not just being, just there to listen? What do you do to respect them and include them into your life, into like listening to them to better your life, listening to them to further your life? What are you doing in that regard?
Um, well, first and foremost, I try to respect them. I do. Now, some of them, some of them that I've encountered have said some stuff that, like, was kind of like, really, dude, like, golly, man, you should have thought about that, But at the same time, you got to maintain posture. You got to maintain that respect. And I try to, when asked, I try to point them in the right direction. But ultimately, to be there, to be available to them, not to brush them off, not to insult them, but to respect them, not to air their laundry out if they do share stuff with me, but to respect them. More so than anything, I remember when my grandfather died, this kid showed up to the funeral, and he was like, man, I show up because of you. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, when I was a kid, you respected me. So when your granddaddy died, I wanted to show my support to you. And then another kid
Wow.
came up to me, and we were talking. He was like, yes, sir. I was like, you don't have to say sir to me. He was like, well, it's a respect thing. I respect you because you respect me when I was a kid.
Wow.
So respect goes a long way.
That's really good. You just being dismissive of people is kind of is really a horrible thing, because especially with the generation, if we don't pour into the generation behind us, and if we dismiss the older generation, then where are we going to be when we get to that point? We've got to make connections. We've got to build a bridge. And guys, there's people out there for you. There's brothers out there for you that'll support you, that'll be there. They don't necessarily have to be blood, but they'll support you, love you. They'll accept you, not try to control you, but be there for you in your time of need. So it's Thriving Thursday. And I want to say to you, be confident in who you are, and then you can continue to thrive. Have a good one. Bye.